guys, M-Tech Guy here, and today we're taking a look at the E60 M5 and I'm going to be trying to resolve an issue with this vehicle that's been absolutely doing my head in. Now, I was out driving the vehicle the other night and my feet were absolutely freezing, and no matter what, I could not get it to blow warm or hot air down in that driver's footwell. It doesn't make the car very pleasant to drive, and after a while it was just doing my head and I couldn't be doing with it anymore. Now, it took me back to when I first bought the car. That first year that I owned the vehicle, it did exactly the same. Now, it's not something that I've experienced with any other BMW that I've owned over the years, and I've certainly owned a few over the years. Now, normally the heater systems work really good, or you'll just put it in automatic mode, and the climate is very pleasant. It doesn't blow too hard, doesn't blow too soft, not too hot, not too cold. It's normally pretty perfect. So at first I didn't really investigate it any further with this vehicle. I kind of just put it down to it being a bit of a later model compared to what I've owned with the BMWs in the past. Maybe the ducting was positioned slightly different, but it certainly did my head in. But it must have come right, because I haven't really noticed it since until the other night when my feet were absolutely freezing. So obviously it must have come right for a while, because I certainly would have noticed it, because it doesn't make the car very pleasant to drive. So thinking about what might be causing it, what might be contributing to the issue, I can just off the top of my head put it down to maybe it's the blend door, maybe it's the position door for that driver's footwell ducting, or maybe it's the condensation sensor, the fogging sensor, which is stuck to the windscreen, which basically measures moisture condensation at the windscreen, and then what that'll do is tell the computer and the heater system to automatically defog your windscreen. Now, if that sensor fails, or if it starts playing up, I'm pretty sure the system will just default as a fail-safe to that defog mode. Now, I'm pretty sure it's mainly doing this problem when it's in auto mode, and that's when that condensation sensor comes into play. The other thing I've noticed is whenever I switch it into auto mode, the air conditioning always comes on automatically with it, no matter what temperature I've got it set at. So that tells me that it's trying to dehumidify the system no matter what the temperature. So anyway, with that in mind, what I did is I connected my scan tool up, and lo and behold, there was a fault code there for that fogging sensor, for the condensation sensor. So what I did is I checked out the operation of it with my scan tool. It looked like it was receiving voltage okay, and the signal that it was giving, the hertz, it was running about 35, and that looks okay. Off the top of my head, it should be somewhere between 30 and 40 hertz, so it's kind of looking okay. And then what I did is I took the plastic covers off the rear view mirror to gain access to it, just to give it a visual inspection, because it's not uncommon for these to break loose from the windscreen. So that looked okay. The wiring to it looked okay, so yeah, it looked okay. And then what I did is, using the scan tool, I checked that the blend doors, the flaps in the ducting for the footwells was working okay. Tested the position using the switch, so I was blowing hot air down in the footwells there, and then closing the flaps, so giving it less air and then more force. They were opening all good, and then I did use the scan tool just to force it open and close as well, and that was working all good. And as I was testing it, you could physically feel the force of the air in line with what input I was putting in with the control. Of course, makes it even more interesting to diagnose. Now, just for the sake of it, I also checked the heater valve, which lives in the engine bay right down here under your expansion tank. Now, the E60s actually have two heater valves. There's one for each side of the cab for your dual climate control. So I just made sure when everything was nicely warmed up and the heater was blasting, I could feel that both the hoses that were delivering coolant to the heater matrix were both nice and hot, which they were. But to be honest, just going back to that sensor, there was a fault code there for that, and obviously the problem's been intermittent because it doesn't always do it. So I suspect, of course, this car's 20 years old now, that sensor's probably getting towards the end of its life. It probably hasn't failed completely, but it's probably not working 100%, and it's probably just on the cusp of falling over. So for the sake of what one of them's worth, it's not a huge job to change it. I think what I'll do is I'll change it out and I'll see if that resolves the issue. But I really need to get this issue sorted out. It's doing my head in. I can't be doing with driving this car around with my feet absolutely freezing. So let's take a look at the part that I ordered to get the job done, and hopefully it resolves the issue. So this is the one I bought. I didn't go for a genuine BMW one because they were quite expensive. I've gone for a JL branded one. Now I did assume that this might be the OEM manufacturer, but on the packet here it does say made in China, so who knows. But anyhow, hopefully it might be a bit better quality than the ones that you can get really cheap off Amazon or eBay and the likes. Maybe it came out the same factory, who knows. But anyhow, we'll get it fitted to the car and see how we get on with it. So to start off with, we need to remove the plastic covers at the back of the rear view mirror here. So this basically comes apart in two halves, a bit like an Easter egg. So to be able to separate it, we need to push from the bottom here and then pull the two apart. And just slowly, gently separate the rest. Try not to break any of the clips. It does come apart fairly easy. And now we can disconnect the electrical connector to the fogging sensor. So what we need to do is push in where this small square hole is here, where the clip is for the connector. We need to push that in and pull the connector out towards the right hand side of the car. I'm going to use a pointy pick tool just to push in that clip. Now it's likely that these can be quite tricky to separate because it's probably never been apart since the car was assembled. So you just have to go careful, I don't want to break anything. There we go. So before I dive in and start removing the sensor away from the windscreen, all we need to do is just mark the position of it because we want to get it more or less in exactly the same place. There is a little bit of a tolerance, but if we take a look, this half of the plastic cover, where it sits, you haven't got much room between the top side of the inside of the plastic cover and the bottom of the sensor, so we do want to make sure we get it pretty accurate because we don't want it interfering with this when we go to slide it back on. But other than that, as long as it's within the plastic cover, you've got a little bit of a tolerance there. Now sometimes when you buy one of these sensors, especially with the genuine BMW one, it does come with an installation tool. It's like a big plastic template that just slides on, you press it on, and it's exactly the correct position. But that doesn't matter, we can do it without that today. What I'm going to do is just mark the position with some masking tape, and then that'll just give us an outline of where to stick the new one when we're ready. So there we are. That'll give us a nice outline, a nice template of where to stick the new one. So now we're ready to remove this old sensor. Now what you can do is maybe get behind it with a bit of dental floss and saw away at it and just slowly peel it away. The best thing to use to pry this from the windscreen is a plastic pry tool. Don't use anything metal, don't use a screwdriver or anything like that because you risk damaging the windscreen. But what I'm going to do is use a heat gun on the other side of the windscreen just to warm the adhesive behind it that's holding this on, just warm it slightly so it becomes soft. Now I've just got some plastic blades, and what I'm going to do is just use a plastic blade to slowly pry this away, and then following that we'll clean up any residue that's left on the windscreen. So we need the temperature of the heat gun set between 40 and 60 degrees C. And we want to focus the heat right where that sensor is. You don't want to go above it because you've got the gel pad for your rain sensor there, so you don't want to disrupt that. So just focus the heat right where that sensor is. Once we've got it warmed up, we'll jump back in the car and remove the old sensor. There we go. And now we can remove the old glue residue. Give that wipe with a cleaning wipe. Just want to get rid of the last bit of residue off there. And just to finish it off, what I've got here is some of this paint prep spray. So this isn't going to leave any residue, but you can use something like isopropyl alcohol or some spirits. Don't use anything too aggressive, but just enough. It's going to remove any of that adhesive residue, but you don't want to leave anything on the surface. And now that that surface is super clean, we can now attach the new sensor. So we can take a look at the old and the new side by side. The original BMW one on the left hand side there. That's the new one on the right hand side. So as you can see, they do look very similar. Right, let's get this new one fitted to the windscreen. So we'll remove the backing of the sensor there, and then we'll carefully line it up against the tape template that we've made there. Press it in position. How's that alignment look? Perfect. Right, so now we can reconnect the connector. Remove the tape. Put the plastic covers back in place. Right, now all that's left to do is test the new sensor. Now, as you can see, it is raining outside, but this is all right. This might be a good test for that new sensor. So what I'll do is I'll warm the car up. We'll get the heaters blasting. I'll see if I've got heat coming from that driver's footwell. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And then what I'll do is I'll take the car out for a drive, and then we'll see how the heaters work with regards to the footwell heat, the windscreen and everything, see if it's doing its defog thing. And then when I get back, I'll plug the scanner in. We'll rescan for codes. I did clear them last time I read this code, so we'll just make sure that that code isn't popping up again. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we get some heat from that driver's footwell when it's in automatic mode. So I'm so sick of driving this car with cold feet, so let's see how we get on. All right, so the car's nicely warmed up now, as you can see by the oil temp sensor there, and it's 11.5 degrees outside right now, so we should feel a difference with the heaters blasting inside the car. Now I've got it in manual mode at the moment. If I press the button for automatic, now that'll change the settings with the inputs coming from that new fogging sensor. As you can see, it's blasting warm air in the footwells there for the driver's side. If I stick my hand down here, I can feel that it is blasting nice warm air. Oh, that's beautiful, that's much better. So that seems to be functioning okay. So what I'll do now is take the car out for a drive in the rain. We'll just see how it compares with a bit of moisture, and we'll go from there. So I've driven the car for a little while in the rain now, and what I did is I turned the heater system off. I dropped all the windows, so we're essentially letting all that moist air into the cabin here, that cold moist air. Drove like that for a while and then shut the windows. So now we can give this a test. It's off at the moment. If I hit the automatic button, you can can see that it's blasting warm air at the windscreen there, so it's detected that moisture inside the car here. That's doing its job properly. It also looks like it is blasting hot air in the footwells too, so that's good, and I can feel that warm air down there now. Right, so back home now, and I'm definitely getting heat to the driver's footwell there, but to be honest, it certainly doesn't feel as hot as it gets in my E46, so whether that's just a difference between the E60s and the E46s, whether I'm just focusing too much on this at the moment, I don't know, but good news is that we are getting heat down there nonetheless. Right, we'll shut her off, we'll plug the scan tool in, and then we'll see if there's any codes there or not. Right, so I'll go down to the IHKA. Read codes, no faults found. Alright, it's the next day now, and I've just been out for a reasonably lengthy drive in the M5. It's still raining, and it's 8 degrees C out there today, so pretty cold, and my feet are lovely and warm now. This is the warmest my feet have been for a long time in this vehicle, so I'm pretty sure that it was that fogging sensor, the old one, that was screwing me over. So hopefully that's the end of that issue. Alright guys, so there we have it. That's that little job taken care of, and hopefully that resolves the issue moving forward, and I don't have to put up with that freezing cold air down in the driver's footwell anymore. Now if you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more BMW E60 M5 content. Consider subscribing if that's your cup of tea. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.